Yes. Next item is the presentation, Site Southwest. Carlos Gemora, Dani Wilson, and Angela Bordegaray.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening. I am going to tag team with the consultant team that's been working on the land use ordinance for the village. Danielle and Carlos are the two people, and are they able to, you can see them, and they are able to hear us, and we are able to hear them. Confirm that.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Carlos.
Good evening, everyone. Good to see some of you again, and glad to be here to present virtually for the Questa Ordinance and Use Code update.
Yeah, stay nice to see everybody. We'll try being up there in person at the next meeting, but yeah, just wanted to introduce ourselves, introduce some content, and yeah, thank you.
So I'm going to introduce myself, and I'm Angela Bordegaray, and I work with North Central New Mexico Economic Development District. You may know Felicity Fonseca. She's our community development director, and I'm a planner with her. I'm a trained planner and working with the village to look at your land use ordinance and zoning maps. And we brought in Carlos and Dani to provide some information about that tonight as far as what we're doing. And I wanted to just let you know that if you're not familiar with North Central or some of the work that we've done, we work a lot with you guys. And in fact, I think you all just got an award for $4 million for a grid modernization project. I think that's just very recent from the MNER, the Natural Resources and Mining Department. We also do a lot of funding, navigation support, as well as some help with grant administration. And so just to ground that in that context. So I think unless you have any questions for me or this project, I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over to Carlos and Dani and take us through, in your packet, this document, the Village of Questa proposed zoning amendment intentions / direction. All right.
Hi, everyone. My name is Carlos Gemora. So yeah, as Angela was saying, so we're doing a zoning code analysis. So this is phase one of a project that the ED is working on, that Angela's working on. In your packet, you'll see some of the intentions that we have. Just to start out, so these are the folks that are working on it, so myself and Dani Wilson. Most of us working on a previous project in Questa as well, so pretty familiar with this area. The project purpose, so right now we're in phase one. So phase one is just evaluating the zoning code and land use ordinances in order to determine what pathway we want to take for updates. So we've been chatting with some staff, with some of the counselors, and trying to figure out an assessment of what a direction could be for code amendments. After we're done with this, then we'll move into phase two, which is actually implementing the code amendments that Questa wants to see. So one of the things we're working on is updating the zoning map. So right now we've got this zoning map. So this is I believe the most recent zoning map that we have. So it's added some of the heavy industrial, some of the residential commercial, and then changed some of the ARO, some of the agriculture to the R8 one. So those are some recent changes that have been happening. Our process is we're looking at what's going on with the existing code. And if you look at the document that we provided in the packet, one of the things that seems apparent is that the zoning code contains a lot of elements that don't seem to reflect what the community's land practices are. So we've heard a lot about a lot of variants and exceptions for basic kinds of requests, for building typical residential and things like that. We've seen that a lot of regulations are kind of difficult to understand, and housing is more difficult to build than a lot of the community wants to see. So we'll fill out more of that assessment, but that's so far what we're seeing. The main thing that I wanted to chat with the councilors about and kind of introduce tonight, we don't have to clarify all of this, but getting into some of these recommended intentions. The idea is that we'd like council to have some kind of agreed upon direction for the phase 2 amendments. So what I've kind of laid out so far is absolutely not fixed. All of this can change, but it's 4 kind of intentions or themes here. So the first one is just simplifying the review process. So thinking about how things are approved, how things are, you go through the staff review process. So within that, there's reducing the needs for some of the variances and special exceptions, but also just simplifying and clarifying how applicants apply for different requests, and then how things are reviewed, either at the staff level or the council level. The second recommendation that we're looking at is encouraging more residential and commercial uses. So that's allowing more flexibility for different kinds of commercial and residential developments. It's allowing more types of residential. So allowing starter homes, compounds, casitas, attached housing, different kinds of configurations on smaller lots, on larger lots, in different ways. So providing some of that flexibility, that's something that we've heard so far. And then also allowing more commercial and residential along areas of transportation facilities. So thinking about where can development go, where is it already suitable, and just allowing that or encouraging it to go into the places. The third kind of theme we're looking at is simplifying, revising, and clarifying. So right now, the land use code is kind of a hodgepodge from 1974, and there's also some elements from the 40s, and there's some elements from the 80s, and the 90s, and the 2000s, and the 2020s, and so we want to just integrate some of those together so that it's a easy, understandable code. We want to try to organize that, clarify that, reformat that, make the tables, make flow charts, make it just really easy for staff and the public to understand what the code is. The last one, consistent expectations and protections, is mainly about trying to clarify what the regulations actually are. So trying to just make sure that things like, where's the front of the lot? Where's the sides of the lot? Where's the rear of the lot? What kinds of regulations apply and when? Just trying to make it really clear what individuals can expect and what individuals can think about as far as protection of sensitive areas of residential and things like that. So trying to provide some of those standards and guidance. Let me flip really quick to the next slide, and then we'll go back and we can talk about that previous one. What we're looking to do is at the next meeting, the May 12th Village Council meeting, we'd like to have some resolution that outlines what the intention, what the direction is, so that we could then work on that phase 2 and figure out how can we, with NCNM, EDD, start implementing those recommendations. So we don't have to get into the nitty-gritty kind of things right now about, what kinds of sites would allow what exactly is allowed or not allowed. Is it 12 days or 14 days? Is it 365 days or 280 days? We don't have to get into those details right now. That would be phase 2. But we do want to get some sense of, are these the right kind of intentions? Is this the right kind of direction that the council wants to see? So I know we don't have too much time right now, but open to talk about some of these intentions either now or in a future date. So we have set up some phone calls and have chatted with some of the councilors and the mayor, and are open to have more conversations with different folks around what we kind of want to see. But again, the idea for this is just to lay out a broad kind of direction, and then start working on how can we start cutting off those pieces and implementing. Any questions on some of those thoughts?
And Carlos, I might add one clarifying point there. If folks need to reference a map, we do have some maps available. Again, as Carlos mentioned, our goal tonight is really to think we need to lay out the groundwork for our actions moving forward and to make sure we're focusing on the right things for Questa. So not getting too nitty gritty, but we do have maps to refer to if that is helpful as part of the discussion tonight.
Thank you, Danny. So that was a lot.
Well, no questions are allowed from the audience.
So,
Just one question for you, Angela, or the Site Southwest team, is the work you guys are doing, is you're contemplating going to Construction Industries Division for permitting? Have you guys thought that far in advance? So if somebody's gonna build a home or do a commercial building, that is that methodology going to be laid out in this as well?
thank you for the question, Councilor Jaramillo. The answer is yes, and because we'll be looking at the whole, like the development review process and teasing out what the process is, basically what happens now for different permits for different types of development, but the role of the Construction Industries Division. And if Carlos, you want to add to that, I welcome you to, or Danny.
Yeah, I wasn't sure that I could understand the question entirely, but yeah, CID is doing a lot of permitting. Whether this is CID or whether it's the county or whether it is the village, any of those reviews, we're still looking at just how are applicants applying for those, and then how can applicants go through that process. Just making sure that that's consistent.
Can you still hear us?
Can you hear us? Can you hear us?
There we go, yep.
Yeah, we hear you better now too.
How long of a process do you see this taking?
All right. Try that again.
How long of a process do you see this taking?
No, we cannot hear any of that.
Darn. Right?
And we can get a grant for it.
We might.
Can you hear us now?
That sounds good.
You just have to repeat the
Okay.
questions.
I can do that. Okay, so we'll try that again. Councilor Jaramillo has a question about permitting and
Permitting, if if the new ordinance will contemplate individuals going to CID for the permitting process.
Carlos, Danny, the question is if this code process includes laying out applications. You can't hear me. Darn. Okay.
Angela, I see you moving, but I don't can't hear anything.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm
Loud and clear.
gonna speak to the owl, I guess. So can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, Councilor Jaramillo's question relates to the development and permit process, and with respect to the role of the state's construction industries division role in this process. Does that make sense?
Yeah. The zoning amendment process doesn't change CID, doesn't change building codes, doesn't change building safety, infrastructure requirements, things like that. We're only getting into the zoning code elements that are the local zoning code, the local regulations. So it doesn't change what the inspection or building permit review process is. It's just changing, basically from Jacob's perspective, from staff's perspective, what can staff and council approve or not approve before going to that permit review process. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Sort of.
I understand what he's saying, but currently there's some mixture going to the county, some mixture going to the state. I think for Jake's or Mr. LaFarette's perspective, giving them one way to go, and there's one council member, and I can't speak for anybody else, but I think the permitting and that should go to the state, and the inspections should go to the state.
Did you catch that, Carlos, Danny?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor and Councilor, the way that those are reviewed, we still wouldn't be getting into that. I think that would be a pretty different question based on what you guys want to do, what there's capacity for, what the county has capacity for, and then whether you send things to the state, the county, or do that in-house. We're really just focusing, for this stuff, it's mainly just focusing on what the local jurisdiction's regulations are. We could try to look a little bit at some of what the permitting process is, but it's mainly just what's done in-house from a local perspective.
Then I have.
I agree that is still a major issue for a lot of communities in New Mexico as well. So I'm not discounting that. I'm just saying it's a little bit of a separate process than looking at amending just the local jurisdictions, just the Village of Questa's zoning regulations.
If I may, Carlos, this is part of the process of what we're assessing is how the development is reviewed internally, basically the processes that Questa has and what Jake does. So this will become clearer with respect to what types of development go which way. Does that make sense? I mean, we'll be illuminating this, so everybody knows what the process is now, which you're going to know from you, and then whatever's recommended as far as practice or by what's the word? I don't know, implementation manual, as it were, for the village.
Correct.
It is confusing everywhere. It's with county, San Miguel County and Village of Pecos. There's a lot of local and county and state role.
Just one last question. Is it under number 2 where you guys would look at short-term rentals?
Yeah, I think for number two, that would be part of the short-term rentals is, we'd have to figure out what does the community want as far as short-term rentals? How do you want to regulate that or allow those? What would be the process for allowing that? That would be part of that kind of second theme. We might not be able to get to all of the recommendations, but yeah, if we do get to short-term rentals, that would be part of that second theme. What we'll have to do after this process, is we'll have to figure out what are the priority amendments to make, and do we include short-term rentals or do we not? Do we try to have more casitas or do we not? And so once we're kind of done with some of the broad direction and assessment, we'd be able to get more into what are the specific things that the community wants to change, and how do those change.
Thank you, Carlos.
I think he had another question, which was how long was it gonna take?
Oh, yeah. How long of a process do you guys see this? Is another 6 months? Or I was glad that you were here to see that example of Ms. Padgos before that to us. From my perspective only, that should be something that's administratively signed off on by Mr. LaForêt or Ms. Shannon, and stuff like that shouldn't be coming up before us. And it's just a simple thing of moving a mobile home to a parcel of land that shouldn't come before us. And same thing, Councilor Gonzalez's family did the same thing last week, came before us, and it should be an administrative function. So, I guess, yeah, how much longer do you see this process taking? And yes, I'm one of the ones that hasn't talked to the team.
Uh-huh. We're here. They're here. So thank you, Councilor Jaramillo, thank you for that question. I would want to ask that myself. I'm gonna let Carlos break it down a little bit for you, but just off the top, we structured this so that the first is to assess all of your different codes and from different timelines and bringing them together, which is like a big basket that they've been working through. And so this first phase we're in, the one we're talking about tonight, is getting us organized to then do like the update to the code. And so the timing depends on what priorities are and then, I'll let Carlos pick up from there as far as the next phase and how we foresee that happening in a timeline.
Yeah, thank you, Councilor. Yeah, great question there. Some of it will depend on when NCNM EDD can start the next contract. But from the start of a contract, we can go as quick as 6 months. 6 months would include kind of 2 months of approval period, but some of that also depends on how many changes are we trying to get through, and are we trying to pass some things earlier on and do a smaller, quicker project, or are we trying to do a more complex, more a longer, more intensive project? So some of that will just depend on how big the project is, how big the scope is, and then some will also depend on how much complexity goes into it. So for some communities, we'll work with them and it's very easy. We can draft kind of simple changes and the community says, all good, let's just move forward, and we're able to pass that in just a matter of a few months. For other communities, they want to have a lot of in-depth kind of conversations about what the wording should be, what the process should be, what the specific legal language should be. And so that could make things take a lot longer. So the review process that you guys want will determine a lot of it. But generally, I think that we could make quite a significant number of changes within hopefully less than 6 months.
And I might add one more item to that too, Carlos. I think especially as we're thinking about that item number one in trying to make all of this simpler, clearer, more transparent for community members, I think that we would have to take into consideration that time it takes to roll out and communicate those changes to the public as well. So just making sure that in the spirit of this transparency and simplification, making sure we do have time to let the community know about those changes and make sure that folks know where to go to learn more and that everything is really clear. So it's not like the project ends and then it's up to staff. I mean, it could be, but we would also want to provide some tools to help that onboarding process for the community.
Sorry, guys, one more last question, and this could be actually a question for Ms. Shannon. So at one point, our attorneys had a draft ordinance, and you could, guys on my right side, remember we were going to have a couple of retreats, and we never had those retreats with that draft ordinance. Ms. Shannon, do you contemplate giving that the ordinance, or are we starting from scratch?
Mayor and council, we are not starting from scratch. We're trying to look at the current ordinance and see what else needs to be added or changed to make it better for Questa. So we may, with Site Southwest, have some kind of retreat to get more input if they think that that's needed. If not, we'll present to you what they present to us.
But the ordinance that Mr. DeFlippo had worked on, so we're not going to use that as the basis of our.
No, that was really big and cumbersome. So I don't think we're going to go that far. We may implement some of those items in there, but we'll have Site Southwest work through that.
I believe Southwest already has that ordinance, Mr. DeFlippo's ordinance.
That's correct. They have that ordinance, and that's part of this assessment, that they're combing through it. It's part of this assessment, what to keep, what to change. It'll be shaped into a new ordinance. That's the goal, right?
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. We want to create, and some of this will depend on scope. You know, if there's a very small budget and a very tight timeline, then maybe we'll just try to prioritize some stuff and do some simple amendments. But ideally, we would be able to rewrite the code and get a really good baseline for everyone to be able to use. It's digital, easy to update, easy to see, easy to find, easy to understand. And it would be a blend of using the existing language and then updating that with other things we've worked on with rural communities, and then looking at the proposed ordinance that was also created and figuring out how can we incorporate some of those guidelines while still keeping it really simple for the village.
I have questions. No one else has any. So you say you're working with counselors. Obviously, I work with Councilor Jaramillo. I haven't been in touch with anybody. Who are you working with?
So I know when I started the project, I met with the mayor and staff, Jake, and then these guys came in. Carlos and Dani have been working on this assessment of the code, and as part of that, they've sought interviews and had interviews with, I believe, definitely two, and the mayor, and I'm not sure how to,
No.
okay. So that's the answer to that, and I can let Carlos,
I'll answer that as well. Ms. Shannon did ask all of you to contact Site Southwest. She sent out an email asking you to provide a date possible. That's why I set up my meeting. I'm sure that's why Councilor Dyke set up her meeting off that email, dates available. So councilors, Ms. Shannon did provide you with that opportunity, and you still have that opportunity.
So my next question is, there was, this is probably for the mayor though, there was a committee being put together by the Village of Questa. Where is that as far as the committee for the ordinance committee?
The planning zone
Yeah.
committee is, we have 3 people, and I'm looking for 2 more.
What are the people's names on that committee?
It's Evelyn Coggins, Dominic Verduran, and Deborah Martinez.
Dominic Martinez, you said?
Dominic Verderine,
Or Dominic? And the other?
Deborah Martinez.
Can you hear that? Did you hear that, Carlos and Danny? The mayor's answer?
I didn't really hear that. Was it around the planning commission, the planning commissioners, and what their involvement would be?
It's mostly, Councilor Ortega asked about the status or of the Planning and Zoning Commission, and the mayor responded with that status.
So it's a committee, not a commission.
No, so
Committee for you guys? Okay. Your Planning and Zoning Committee.
Yeah. They're volunteers, I guess. from the committee.
And that's by ordinance, right? Yeah.
Then my next question is, how long have you guys been working on this project?
Well, I've been with North Central,
No, but the specific project.
this specific project, good question. I'd like to illuminate that. I started working with North Central about 2 years ago. And early on in that, I was sent up here. I came up to Questa and met with the mayor, and we were starting this discussion because we at North Central had been requested to review zoning and code ordinances. And so we provide technical assistance. So I was up here probably, I believe it was last summer. It was hot. So I was up here, and then I basically heard from you all what were some of the needs regarding zoning and different land use scenarios. And then we hired Dani and Carlos with Site Southwest as their firm to actually do this assessment after, like, to build on what we had already done at North Central, what I had done. So it's been in process for about a year, I would say.
My next question is, what is the Village of Questa paying the firm to get this done? Whether it's you or all you together?
Absolutely, yeah, no, that should be known, right? It's public funding.
Yeah.
We get North Central as technical, we're like a council of governments. We get money for capacity grants, and we are paying Site Southwest to do this. It's a scope of work, discrete scope of work for this, and it's about $20,000. So that's for this. This
point of
is
clarification, though, the village is not paying Southwest for that. That's
correct.
being funded by North Central. I think to your question, Councilor, the village is paying it.
That's correct. Thank you for that clarification.
And then my next question is, you talked about a $4 million award or grant. What was that entail?
So that's just something I'm not working on, but I know from Felicity Fonseca, because she does it, we do a lot of that. We provide grant assistance, writing grants, et cetera, for you guys. And before I came here, I asked her anything to give you information about. And apparently this is a new grant, and it's for grid modernization. So that's.
We were awarded that grant? Is that what
You
you're
were
saying?
awarded it. You just got it. $4 million.
$4 million grant.
Yes.
For what, did you say?
Grid modernization.
Can you clarify what?
I can clarify, that's part of a bigger $30 million grant package that we applied for our solar project.
So this has to do with the hydrogen project for the solar, right?
For the solar, yes.
So that, if we don't do
It's
the
part of it.
hydrogen plant, we don't get the $4 million.
Correct.
Yeah, there's several going on right now. This solar project, there's another consultant involved in that, and the paperwork's going through for the solar piece of it. And then this is another piece, this grant, and then there's yet another grant. So regarding, or that's been requested of congressional directed spending. There's two different, I believe they're grants for that. So there's like 4 different grant sources.
I guess the mayor just told us that'll be a total of 30 million.
No, it wasn't approved. It was only, we applied for 30 million and only $4.1 million was awarded.
But then we got the $25 million grant,
Yeah, and that
So
one's
we're
not,
at 29.
that one hasn't been, we haven't got the paperwork on that one yet.
That's in the works, right?
That's in
Doing
the
the
works.
paperwork.
But that's in the 2020 set a fiscal year budget, so that money we won't even hear anything about that money until after July 1st.
I guess my next question is for the mayor. So shouldn't we as a council and mayor meet and discuss how we're gonna go forward with something of this nature before we just give a free run to somebody else to make us a bunch of, laws and zoning things that we maybe aren't wanting to do in Questa or are wanting to do? Shouldn't we set some sort of parameters on how we want things
We did.
or suggestions?
We did before you were on the council.
So you have something to that effect that I can actually.
It's called the ICIP. There's one of them, and then we've been talking about zoning, fixing our zoning ordinance for probably as long as I've been on the
Can I get a copy of that, Karen?
Copy of what, sir?
ICEP.
ICIP. That will tell you what we're looking for solar money.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Sure, thank you. And part of this, our job as planners is to communicate this and be, about the process, about the background and history. And as Mayor Ortega said, it's been in the works with the village before my time, before your time. And part of what they've already done is started to develop like a narrative background piece on the, what is it? The genesis of this project and where we are. I'm not promising that right now, but so that's clear for all of you, because you're new as well, new counselors, some of you. So we're all on the same page
Okay.
and know where we're at as far as what we're doing right now and what was said before. And hopefully tonight we've got something we have something to come away with from you, where we're going to be able to put that in this resolution for the next meeting.
And councilors, if I may, just to add, I think what I was also understanding was, when will there be more involvement on what action should be done? Because I am not trying to make any changes because of what I want myself. Danny worked on the comp plan process. So some of this is thinking about a lot of community engagement that went into the comp plan process, thinking about where does the community want to go? What does the community kind of want? What is the community thinking about from economic development in a residential housing kind of perspective? So right now, it's really just broadly looking at that. When we start getting into details of what should happen with short-term rentals, what should happen with RVs, what should happen with, should single wives be permitted by right or not? Should you be allowed to put a second home on a property? Should you be allowed to have a property that's less than an acre? All of those details would be things that we'd have to talk to the community about, right? We'd have to talk to councils about. So I'm not making any of those decisions. I'm trying to kind of clarify some of what we're kind of hearing in this direction. So the recommended intention is that it seems like there's desire to have those kinds of conversations, but as far as what should those laws be, that 100% has to be a process that we'd be engaging with the community on, having those conversations on. We were trying to have some of those conversations earlier in April, weren't able to get all of that worked out, the logistics and work studies and shops to chat with counselors and stuff like that. So we're trying to just kind of like finish up this process so we can actually start the implementation. But I think you're exactly right. That for the phase 2, it will absolutely involve conversations to figure out if these are the right intentions or the direction, then what are the details? And how can we make sure that those laws are reflecting on the community wants? And Danny, do you want something?
I was gonna just mention too, essentially we're looking to you through these intentions to clarify our scope of work, to provide us with some guardrails for how we're going to do this work moving forward and how we're going to have those conversations, because we'll need to prioritize at some level. We can't boil this ocean, it's a big task. And so from what we've heard so far, and this is just initial ideas, these are sort of the 4 parameters for that scope. And we just want to understand from you all if that's right, if we are headed in the right direction with that focus, or if there's something that we're missing that is sort of critical in your understanding that needs to be amended or revised as part of your zoning code and land use ordinances and policies. So that's really, you guys are helping us set the agenda right now for what our work will be moving forward. And like I said, we're not making a decision on it tonight. We want you to sit with this before we meet with you again in May.
Councilors, do you have any questions?
No, Mayor.
No questions, thank you. I think we talked about this on the phone. I think it's good that you came and presented for the two councilmen that didn't go through the phone call and for the public as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Next item.
Thank you all.
Thanks,
is
guys.
action items.